Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is George Schlakik and I am
The one and only.
Hey, a big thank you goes out to all my subscribers. We're growing, now surpassed 300, and I really appreciate every single one of you. Bicycle Touring Talk is where I tell you all the stories I've experienced thanks to my first ever big bicycle tour. I have written a book about this tour and is still available on Amazon. Link in the description below. In the last episode, I got food poisoning in Veracruz. It had me extend my stay to a total of 4 nights. But then finally the next morning, I was well enough to explore the city on foot, though in slow motion. I also ate a ton of safe food, including oranges, bananas, bread, tortilla chips. It wasn't exactly the greatest diet, but my stomach still didn't feel right. Over the next 2 days, I covered a lot of ground walking around downtown Veracruz and along the boardwalk. The 2 long piers where people went fishing with just a line and a hook, using little pieces of fish for bait, became my favorite hangouts. Giant pelicans were always nearby watching for unattended pails. I witnessed them steal several little fish right out of a man's stash. Further down the boardwalk was the Aquarium, a big complex that housed several museums and a mall. Besides the aquarium itself, the mall was free to explore and interesting enough. Further away from the shore was a downtown shopping district and finally a huge market. It was all new and exciting to me, so I spent hours wandering around, barely satisfying my curiosity. On what was supposed to be my last day, I finally felt confident enough to resume my tour the next morning. I was planning to continue on to Alvarado, a town 70 kilometers further south. Nestled between the ocean and the freshwater lake, it promised to be an interesting place. There would also be a small fishing port, and just like Veracruz, the town had a lot of history. As it turned out, however, I wasn't done with Veracruz yet. The city still had a surprise in store. Once again, I had walked to the aquarium and enjoyed watching the crowds along the boardwalk. This time, I decided to take a different route back to my hotel. See, Veracruz is very old. The streets don't run parallel or in any particular pattern. It was almost inevitable to get lost, and that made it all the more interesting. I was completely disoriented when I saw a big picture window featuring the Toronto skyline, CN Tower and all. Well, I had to check this out. It looked like a store, but there was no looking inside through that window. Perhaps the door was unlocked? I opened the door and stepped inside a large foyer with a reception desk. A young man in a neat uniform greeted me from behind the desk. He saw that I was curious, and without even asking, I got a tour of the entire place. Kiosk International was a private language school with ties to a Canadian company by the same name. There were several classrooms that were all named after Canadian provinces. While it was truly impressive how clean and organized this place looked, it also gave me an idea. Could I play teacher for a while? I actually had a certificate that qualified me to teach English as a second language. A while back, I had seriously considered the idea of finding a contract for a couple of years in a different country. Could this be the place? Would this be my opportunity to pick up the idea once more? I was in conflict. Part of me resented the idea of staying put, and I just wanted to carry on with my bike tour. but another voice inside my head begged to stay in Veracruz. The city was awesome, and after 4 days of exploring the streets, I barely knew any of it. Suddenly, it seemed like a challenge. Would I be able to get a shot at teaching English at Kiosk International, possibly making me a resident of Veracruz for a while? Do you sometimes have openings for teaching positions? I heard myself ask. The young man who had given me the tour smiled as if he had known all along.
Yes, sometimes.
He answered in perfect English.
We might have some opening here for the new semester, but you'd have to come back Monday afternoon when our coordinator's in.
I walked back to my hotel as it was getting dark, contemplating my options. What was I to do? Part of me was restless and wanted to move on. But I also really liked Veracruz and the prospect of calling it home for a while. I had no idea which was stronger, so the only decision I could make at the moment was to stop for a good meal somewhere. My stomach was okay now. For the rest of the evening, I tried not to think about what I was going to do next. I would just have to sleep over it. Yeah. What is it really all about? Up to my stay in Veracruz, I never gave much consideration to the possibility of interrupting my bike tour for an extended period. I generally left even places I had truly enjoyed visiting after a day or two. They never had quite the same appeal as the open road. I loved the freedom that cycling without a firm destination seemed to give me. What kept me going was my appetite for adventure and curiosity about locations I had not seen yet. Then something changed. By the time I was ready to leave Veracruz, I was having real trouble deciding what my next step should be. All of a sudden, I was wondering what I might miss if I left Veracruz too soon. A 4-day stay that probably would have never happened had it not been for food poisoning was all it took to make me fall for this city. All those things went through my head while I was riding south on Mexico 180 with destination Alvarado for the day. After being sick and off my bike for a few days, the urge to ride the bike had won out against the temptation to stay in Veracruz, at least for now. In the back of my mind was an idea, however. For the first time, I was seriously considering to backtrack. See, the day was Friday. I could still be back in Veracruz for Monday if I decided to turn around. I had simply put off the decision. First, I was going to explore Alvarado. Even with a view of the ocean for much of the way, the ride was almost boring, due to the straight road and the lack of hills. I remember stopping at one convenience store along the way, an OXXO of course, where I bought some Gatorade and cookies. By late afternoon, I was in Alvarado looking for a hotel. The one I eventually found was an ancient family-run business that had probably seen better days. About 30 rooms were accessible via a large yard. The sign in front of the building claimed to have hot water for all of them. But the gas-operated water heater was so small. When I took my shower, only cold water was coming out. Sound familiar? Later on my way out to explore the town, I noticed the owner trying to ignite the pilot light on the ancient water heater with a burning piece of newspaper. I enjoyed my evening in Alvarado, a beautiful and relatively quiet place, especially compared to Veracruz. I could walk all over town in about an hour. There was a park by the city hall, almost right next to my hotel. It seemed like this was where things were happening in this town. Not only did entire families and groups of teenagers hang out there, it was also a gathering place for hundreds of birds. The chirping sounds added an unforgettable touch to the atmosphere. The port was just a short walk away. I noticed a handful of small wooden fishing boats anchored here. The interesting thing about this port is that it isn't exposed to the ocean at all, but it's on a freshwater lagoon on the other side of town. Alvarado has a truly unique location on a narrow strip of land nestled between the ocean and the lagoon. That adds a lot to its character. There's absolutely no room for expansion either, so the town is made up of very old buildings. After some wandering around, I found tacos for supper from a street vendor. It was really easy to connect to some locals here. Later, I ended up in a bar where I had a couple of drinks and a lot of fun with complete strangers. Just a few weeks earlier, the thought of mingling with people in a Mexican bar would have freaked me out. Now I was quite comfortable here, speaking even better Spanish after a few drinks, with only the occasional English word thrown in.
Soy Jorge Schlakek y soy el único.
That Friday night turned out to be the best of my time in Alvarado. When I woke up the next morning, rain was pouring hard. At times it was so heavy that the roof of the hotel looked like it had waterfalls running down in a few spots. There was no way I could walk around outside in the streets, not even to buy some food. All I had was a bag of chips, some oranges, and an avocado. Barely enough to keep me fed for a little while. The TV was old and had a fuzzy picture, but it had several movie channels to keep me entertained. I still had a decision to make. Being stuck in my room was bringing back all the thoughts of indecision. Perhaps the rain was going to keep me in Alvarado longer than I planned. Where was I going next anyways? Part of me wanted to go back to Veracruz by Monday. The other part just wanted to enjoy total freedom and bum around the country or find a deserted beach. There was still time to think about it, so I put off the decision again. What was I going to do? Well, you can find out by watching upcoming episodes of Bicycle Touring Talk. Mexican adventures are not for the faint of heart, so brace yourself for the ride and join me next time. Do you need to catch up to know how I even got this far? Well, there are some videos popping up on the screen just about now that'll help you do just that.